the after effects of what was called Operation Spiderweb, and an examination of what is or has been going on in Ukraine, which Brian is going to have a look at for us now.
Okay, thank you for that, Charles. Well, just a very quick comment, but of course we've seen Western media, newspapers and TV video streams alike absolutely crowing at the recent attacks on Russia, never mind how dangerous these were in view of the fact that it implicated Russian strategic assets. But at times radio has been one of the leaders of this, that they seem to regard war as a joke, and they were full of good humour because of the Kerch Bridge bombing. So I'm just putting this one up as an image to reflect the type of things that the Times and other Western media is putting across. But of course, the reality of what's happening on the battlefield, we can't rely on mainstream media, but we can rely on some very hardworking amateurs. And I'm just going to bring up Defence, let's bring it up here, Defence Politics Asia. I've mentioned before, there's a number of these people, and I'm trying to give them all credit for what they're doing. But the reality on the battlefield, of course, is Russian advances. Yes, very slow, but this is the whole point of the Russian tactics. It's a creeping advance. It's like lava moving. And the reality is that Ukraine is losing on the battlefield. And at the time we start to talk peace, surprise, surprise, we get these attacks on Russia, mainland Russia. So, Sandy, you were really quite taken, I think a little bit shocked by the attacks that took place over recent days. So tell us what you feel.
We had the drone attacks. Was it last week? And just in the last 24 hours, we've had the bombing of the Kerch Bridge in Crimea, which is a vital link between Crimea and the Russian mainland. And I've got a video of that bombing, and it's quite shocking, really, that it's a third attempt on this bridge, which is a vital lifeline. And it's held dear by Putin to actually. It was his. It was more than a bridge. It was a symbol of Russia's restoration of the Crimea. After the people voted to rejoin the Russian Federation in 2014. So let's see that video. Thank you. Yeah, it said, there it is being blown up. It was apparently the Ukrainian USB has admitted it. Here's one of their lieutenants, saying this is a trinity. It's the third attempt on Ukraine, on Russia, and he says God loves the Trinity, and we're going to continue to do it. Basically, this is really baiting the Russians and baiting Putin, and this is the drone attack, obviously, from last week. And it just shows you. 41 of Putin's planes were bombed, and this is what we're looking at. We're looking at a real baiting of the bear. It's absolutely blatant, and it's significant because this bridge really is a symbol of Russia's referendum, which the West continues to deny because they deny the right of people's self-determination when it suits their agenda. If they keep pushing this, sooner or later the response will escalate, because if you keep kicking the bear, eventually the bear turns round. And the tragedy is the people of Europe and America are being lied to. They're being told this war is a war for democracy, when in truth it's a war for global hegemony, as we know. They're being told Russia is the aggressor and that NATO has expanded to Russia's doorstep. They've broken every promise, armed every hostile neighbour, and now sponsors attacks on Russian soil. So let's be clear, the bombing of the Crimean Bridge was a message, and now Russia will send its own, I'm sure. Our governments are marching us into a war, and they've already committed acts of war in our name. So because of this madness, if it continues, we literally are, that Russia is forced to respond as any great nation would. And the next bridge to fall might not be Crimea, it might be the bridge between peace and annihilation. So, that's it, really.
Sandy, thank you very much for that. You indicated to me earlier this morning that the people, we're going to say in local communities, you've got good connectivity with the community. And you were saying to me that people are now starting to see through this. They're not treating the mainstream media reports as if they are the absolute truth. I find that extremely encouraging. The other thing I just wanted to add to your commentary is that the idea that the drone attacks across Russia on Russian strategic nuclear assets, the idea that that was simply carried out by Ukraine is laughable. There would have been UK and possibly the US behind, but for Ukrainians to do it on their own, I don't think so. And I think we can say the same with these attacks on the Kerch Bridge, because they would have needed Western expertise to help them carry out these attacks. And this is the reality. This is not a war of Ukraine versus Russia. It is NATO and Ukraine versus Russia. And we need to be accurate in how we describe this. People need to understand this. But Sandy, thank you very much. I'm encouraged that people are starting to see through what's happening.